Phone 3 is finally here, and the question and I'm sure many of you are wondering is, are the cameras any good?
I'm Sam, I've been on the content team since 2022 and I've been using cameras for the past 10 years, and over the last 6 months we've been working on the camera tuning for Phone 3. I'm pretty happy with how far we've come, but I've not had a chance to test it to the other flagships out there, so that's what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to compare the Phone 3 to the Samsung S25 Ultra, the Google Pixel 9 XL and the iPhone 16 Pro Max. And then we're going to chat to Raymond at the end to give him the lowdown. It's a bit of a weird quiet.
First up, we got the main cameras. I'm just going to rush through the specs bit to get this signed off by the marketing team, and then we can move on. Phone 3 has a 50 megapixel OmniVision OV50H sensor with an aperture of 1.68. The Pixel also has a 50 megapixel sensor with an aperture of f1.68. The Samsung has a 200 megapixel sensor with an aperture of f1.7, and the iPhone has a 48 megapixel sensor with an aperture of f1.8. Alright, that was quite a lot of numbers, and it'd be pretty boring if I just go through what they all mean, so let's just get some test shots and see for ourselves. Hello, I took the photos. I'm going to leave all the photos on a link down below so you can have a look at the originals, because there's going to be some compression in the export of this. Overall, I noticed a trend. The Phone 3 and the S25 opted for a more contrasty look with darker shadows, whereas the iPhone and Pixel kept things looking a bit more balanced. There's this one picture that I took of a tower where you can see that the iPhone and the Pixel's shadows are a bit less crushed. It's interesting, when you zoom into the details, you see that the Pixel uses less noise reduction, and then when you pair that with the sharpening, it kind of makes it look a lot more fuzzy. But Phone 3 also uses the same sharpening, but with noise reduction, and it looks quite clean, so there's a bit of a trade-off there, and ultimately it comes down to your personal taste. For me, if I'm quickly going to take a picture on my phone, then I want it to look a lot better just straight out of the box, rather than having to go in and do a lot of editing, because if I'm going to do that, then I'll use a bigger camera like the one that I'm filming on right now, but everyone's different. It was quite hard to find a spot to take low light photos, so I ended up finding this corridor where the lights seemed to be broken, so I just took a snap there. It's not the most scientific test, I know, but I think it worked to demonstrate the capabilities overall. White balance seemed the most accurate on the Android phones, with the iPhone went a bit more of the green tone, and the Pixel was the brightest overall. Zooming into the light on the elevator, the details look the clearest on the Phone 3 and the iPhone, but to be honest, it was such a small portion of the image, and then if you're going to upload it to social media, it doesn't really matter anyway. I feel like all the cameras were pretty capable here. I was a bit shocked by this last one. I feel like the Phone 3 really missed the mark. The HDR tuning was a bit too overcooked, so the sky looked more purple than blue. We took the L there, and I'll take that to Raymond, so hopefully he can fix it before launch. The ultra-wide angle lens. I'm going to be transparent with you here. I don't really see why this exists. I never use it. The quality's not as good as the other cameras, and I rarely need a wide angle lens, but it's here, so let's talk about it. In the nothing corner, we have a 50 megapixel sensor with 114 degrees field of view. The Pixel has a 48 megapixel sensor with 123 degrees field of view. Samsung's coming in with a 50 megapixel sensor at 120 degrees field of view. And finally, the iPhone's listed as having a 48 megapixel sensor with 120 degrees field of view. Now, let's go get some snaps. In the ultra-wide, I saw a lot of similarities in tuning to the primary lens, so I'll move on pretty quickly. First up, Phone 3's lens is very wide. There's quite a lot of times where I'd open the wide-angle camera and I'd see my finger poking up in the bottom and I had to move it out of the way. As you can see, I kind of missed a spot here. On the topic of this picture, Phone 3 seemed to go brighter and the Pixel went darker, and it's almost like it was a different day, but the others met a nice middle ground. All the pictures looked pretty passable though, and that's to be expected. There was a lot of light to give the sensor all the info it needed. For my low light test, I found a nice little dark corner in a car park. All the images captured the information well. The Pixel opted for a very bright picture where you almost can't tell that it was a low light shot, and the iPhone struck a nice balance where you can still tell it's a dark area. Finally, I took a wide shot with a lot of busy movement. Phone 3 lost this one with my initial test of just pointing and shooting. It prioritized the shadows, so the highlights up here look desaturated and not that great, but in fairness, I took another after tapping the highlights and it gave me a much nicer take. Although there's a very weird quirk where some of the people's faces went grey. I'm not really sure what's up with that, and I will be telling Raymond. This is my favourite camera. I just love a big zoom. You get more of a blurry background, less distortion in your images. It's just... Also, you get the added bonus of macro photography, so you get more detail in your close-up shots. Anyway, it's time for my product marketing obligation. The Phone 3 has a 50 megapixel 3x optical zoom. The Pixel features a 48 megapixel sensor with a 5x optical zoom. The Samsung has two zoom cameras, a telephoto with a 50 megapixel 3x lens, but also a second 50 megapixel with a 5x periscope zoom. And finally, the iPhone has a 12 megapixel 5x optical zoom. Bless you, it's snapping time. I'm gonna sound a bit like a broken record at this point, but I feel like all the phones were pretty capable and I took decent images. I feel like you'd expect that from a flagship though, so let's move on. The difference between the 3x and the 5x zooms was quite interesting though. I feel like when I was trying to take photos, I'd stand naturally at the distance you'd expect from a 3x zoom, and then I'd open the 5x and I'd kind of have to take a few steps back to get the composition I wanted. I don't think it's a deal breaker because you could probably get used to it over time, but I just thought it was worth mentioning. It's nice that the Samsung gives you the option of both the 3 and the 5x zoom, but it's also more expensive, so I guess it's down to what you want to prioritize. I did find with the Pixel it was quite difficult to get the composition I wanted. The image stabilization was quite floaty, so I had to end up trying to snipe the shot halfway through the movement rather than just holding the phone still like I could with the others. Macro shots, however, are a different story. I need to make a correction on my earlier statement. You don't get the benefits of macro with periscope like I thought. Apart from the Phone 3, all the other phones wanted to switch to the ultra-wide or the primary lens. I couldn't really get the closeness that I wanted for the shot. And yeah, the periscope on Phone 3 gave me significantly better results. Not to keep piling on the Pixel here, but when I was trying to get a photo of this flower, it would rack the focus to just the perfect point and then it would switch to a completely different camera. It was quite frustrating. Maybe I was doing something wrong and you need to use a different app, but to be honest, that kind of defeats the purpose of this test where I just unbox the phones and start taking photos straight away. I'm sure you guys will let me know below if I was doing something wrong, because I probably was. I kind of hope I'm wrong, to be honest. And finally, we got the front-facing camera. You guys know the drill. It's specs time. God, this is heavy. I don't know how the others do it. The Phone 3 we have the same 50 megapixel sensor as the ultra-wide with an f2.2 lens giving an 81.2 degree field of view. The Pixel has a 42 megapixel sensor with an aperture of f2.2 and 103 degrees field of view. The Samsung has a 12 megapixel f2.2 camera with an 80 degree field of view. And finally, the iPhone has a 12 megapixel camera with an aperture of f1.9. I couldn't find an official statement from Apple on the field of view, so I can't really give you that, I'm sorry. Tim, do better. For this test, I'm going to go around the office to get loads of people to take selfies because, to be honest, you've had enough of my ugly mug for this video. Nadia, would you like to take some selfies, please?
Wait, what's that for? You want to get some natural light in?
Yes, my God, Sam. I thought you were a professional.
Remember what selfie you're going to take. You need to take the same one on the other three. No. Let's get heroin. He's not been in a video in a while. Hello, mate.
You want them all the same aspect?
I need to take the exact same selfie on all 4 cameras.
Yep. Well, I can't see them.
You can't see.
And then
I'll talk to you on Monday.
Oh!
Okay, I'll admit that wasn't the most concrete test I could have done, but to be fair, it was quite fun to hang out with my friends and spend some time with Gwynnie. But because of this, that meant that all of the phones at some point didn't take the most sharp image and it was quite blurry. So for those examples, I'll leave them out of the judging, just to be fair. I'll let Luke go past.
Sorry.
All good. Also, for the Phone 3 images, they're all flipped the other way around, so for the video, I'll flip it back so it's easy for you guys to judge, but the original ones down below will show them the other way around. The selfies from the Android phones seem to be a lot sharper overall. I'm not really sure what's happening there. At first, I thought it could have been user error, but then when I compared it to the other shots I took at the other locations, it also seemed to be the same. By no means do I think they're bad, but I personally would have liked them to be a little bit sharper, but again, it's down to personal preference. Other than that, I thought exposure, brightness and white balance was all pretty solid.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So hey, Roman, thanks for joining me. I've taken loads of pictures and some things have done some weird quirks that I thought I'd show you, but I'd also show you some good ones and then we can chat.
Sure, that's good. I think what I'm looking at here is Pixel and iPhone feels really muddy, like cloudy on the building, like on the top. I wouldn't say this is like it is sharp, like we do use sharpening, but in the case of this one, I don't think it's the sharpening helping. I think it's better just treating when the light is facing the camera to reduce the muddiness. I think iPhone was the only one that's really bad in. This is actually a difficult scene, right? When you have the light shooting directly at the camera.
Yeah.
I think Samsung's one is actually good. I think here's the thing though, like don't like to pixel pinch. I think doing that defeats the whole purpose because when you have the camera, like your goal is to shoot a nice photo. It's not to see every single pixel, right?
All right, now I want to show you one where we didn't do as well.
Okay, you don't like this?
No, I think it looked a bit
Really?
saturated.
No, it's not saturated, it's more contrasty.
What I don't like about it is that we bring the shadows too high up here to the point where it doesn't look like the building's in shade anymore.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the sky,
It's like a weird filter.
yeah, if you look at the sky versus the others, it's gone a bit purpley magenta.
You sure you didn't use a filter?
I'm positive.
Okay. I mean, I have seen like color being off, but never the sky really. The sky is usually fine for me. We need to take an extra look at this. This is not the most ideal that this comes out. This, right?
Is that something that we can look into? And
For sure. I think if you send me these photos, I'll forward them to the camera team.
so this is one of the other examples that I don't think we did very well.
This one's ours. Yeah.
It's kind of in focus,
It's focusing on the back instead of the front.
but how we've dealt with those highlights, it's just very washed out.
Yeah.
And you lose the blue of the sky that you get in some of the others.
Yeah.
This one was a bit dodgy, but then I took a second one, which I think looks much nicer. So like even up here, the colours are much more natural like the others, and you get some nice contrast across the whole image, even though you don't like pixel peaking. If you scroll in, some people just have grey on their faces.
Oh,
It's a bit of a weird quirk.
can you see anyone else? Like on the other photo? Wait, what? It's pretty scary if you look at it. Like, but that's the thing. Like these bugs are always because of a side effect of another algorithm, right? Because we have so many algorithms stacked. But why specifically on faces as well?
I'll send it to the camera team and then hopefully we can try and fix it.
Yeah.
That's my thing with this, is I've found every single camera to be fine.
Yeah, with flagship smartphones especially, it's just getting so good. We don't really feel it because every year we have gradually, like, people around us have been upgrading their phones, so we are seeing higher and higher quality smartphone photos gradually. But then if you suddenly go on Instagram, like, and then find like a photo from like 8 years ago, you really do realize how far we've come.
So there we have it, all the tests complete, and we got some interesting results. As I just mentioned with Raymond, all the stuff I picked up I flagged with the camera team, so hopefully they can fix it before launch. Something Raymond said in the interview is that we do a lot more scientific tests in our labs, but during the beta testing is where you get real world examples on where we can improve. Looking back at all the tests, I'm really curious to see what other people have to say. I know the embargo lifts later this week, so be sure to look out for the other reviews from creators online. Before I go, I need to do a tiny little ad read on our camera presets feature. It's basically this feature where we've preloaded a bunch of camera settings like aperture, focus, and color balance directly into the camera app, so they can all be set before you take the photo. If you've got a 3A or 3A Pro, then just swipe up in the camera app and you'll be able to see them already. And online in our community, loads of people have made their own presets and you can share them via a QR code, so you can try out a bunch of different presets for yourself. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.